All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Understanding Behavior live stream. We are continuing from last week, going into experimental design part 2 tonight. How's everybody feeling? How do you guys feel about experimental design in general? If you haven't seen, I just posted about an hour ago. There's a new video on the Understanding Behavior YouTube channel that reviews the differences between 5th and 6th edition. So if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely go ahead and give it a look. I'll put the link in here in chat as well. Yeah, looks like Karen saw that. Awesome. Looks like she already left a comment on it. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. But yeah, check that video out if you're curious about the differences between 5th and 6th edition. As far as experimental design, there really wasn't like a ton of changes on there, but watch that video if you want to get a recap of all of the different changes that did occur. Let me fix my screen here. Yeah, we don't need this over here. Ooh, there we go. Sweet. Yeah, awesome. Nice. Maria saw that. Looks like we got a couple first timers here tonight. Welcome, Elizabeth. Welcome, Jasmine. How we feeling tonight? But yeah, let me know, how do you guys feel about experimental design in general? If you're here last week, hopefully you're feeling a little bit better about it. We'll continue on with experimental design today, so hopefully after this one, you're gonna feel real confident. Sweet. Yeah, Eileen just got her application approved to test today. That's amazing. Congratulations. Cool. Elizabeth watched part 1. She's ready for part 2. Sweet. Well, I'm glad you're here live to check it out. I think the live experience is just so much more fun because you get all of that feedback and practice with the rationales and everything. And we're doing a little earlier today, so thanks for meeting on the new time. This is not permanent. I just kind of do earlier ones when I have things going on in the evening. So super glad that you're here and can make it. It looks like we have a smaller group tonight too, so I should be able to hand out a little bit more feedback in general. So that's exciting. Yay. Oh, Easter 398 last time. So close. Well, I'm glad you're still here studying and putting in the work. Hopefully next time works out for you. Cool. And yeah, like I said, this is not, it's not always going to be at 7 Eastern, but we'll occasionally do it at 7 Eastern, and sometimes we'll do 8. I'm going to try to stick with it for 8 most of the time since it's aligned with the rest of our study groups on Mondays and Wednesdays too. All right, well, sweet. Last time we talked about a lot of stuff. We went over baseline logic. We talked about prediction, verification, and replication quite a bit. We talked about withdrawal reversal designs, and we're going to get into the rest of our designs today. If you haven't yet, if you could smash that like button, it does help quite a bit. What's cool is that we have a smaller group tonight, so that just means that your odds for winning a giveaway are even higher tonight. So maybe if we get some good likes on the video, we'll hand that out pretty soon. So make sure you're hitting that like button, and we'll do some giveaways later on. All right. So we talked about withdrawal reversal designs. Some key features with the withdrawal reversal is that we are alternating between the baseline and intervention conditions. That's a good way to kind of identify if it is a withdrawal reversal design too. You'll see baseline and intervention conditions that are alternated between. And we'll have those phase lines in between them as well. With withdrawal reversal, remember, you can test out multiple interventions. So this one we had 2 different interventions, intervention A and intervention B. So that is another characteristic of this design. You can also start with a treatment condition. So you can do a BAB where you're starting with treatment, then reverse to baseline, and then go back to treatment. And that's all groovy. Big thing from last time. So remember when to phase change. So there's a couple different patterns that you can phase change on. The most common one that you're probably familiar with is when we have that stable pattern. It's a great time to phase change. But remember, there's another condition where you can phase change as well. So this is when the data are trending in the opposite direction at intended by the next condition. So if we're looking to increase the behavior, if we had descending data in our baseline, this would also be an appropriate time to phase change. So just again, just quickly recap it, withdrawal reversal designs. We had a quick question in chat. Jen's asking, why would you start at intervention first? You start at intervention first if it's like more necessary to intervene fast. So you spend less time in baseline if you start with intervention first. So that can be a good time to do it. Other than that, sometimes you already have an intervention in place too. So you come in, there's a specific intervention in place. We want to see if it works. We could also reverse back to baseline and then go put the treatment back in later to see if this actually has an effect and if we have experimental control with this one. Going over some of the utility for withdrawal reversal designs, we talked about how these are the strongest demonstration of experimental control. So we have really strong experimental control with our designs. When we have a variable in, then we completely remove that variable. So withdrawal designs do that pretty much all the time. So that's what gives it the strongest demonstration of experimental control. We'll talk about that and how that compares with some of the other designs as we move through as well. One limitation is that you cannot use this for behaviors that cannot be reversed or unlearned. So if it's a behavior like once they learn it, they're not going to easily forget it, we would not want to use this design here. And that's because we would not allow verification to occur. So let's pretend this graph shows an irreversible behavior. We would have low baseline, we implement the treatment, it goes to high level, and when we go back to baseline, it would probably still be high level. So we're not going to get that verification, which is not going to show experimental control, which is thumbs down, not great with this design. There are some potential ethical limitations with severe and dangerous behavior. So with a withdrawal design, since we always have to have some baseline, it may be unethical to remove a treatment for the sake of our experiment. So when we have like really severe and dangerous behavior, there's usually a better option, which we'll talk about shortly. We talked about how it can test out multiple interventions, but overall, this does it a little bit more slowly. We'll talk about the alternating treatments design next, which does that, fixes that a little bit better. All right, cool. So that's our recap from last time. Let's get into our new stuff for today. So we're going to talk about our alternating treatments design first. I want to see in chat, what do you guys, so every design has at least one element that's very unique to the design. So what is the thing that's like really unique to an alternating treatments design? Well, let's see what you guys know about that in chat. So again, the question is, what is the thing that is most unique to an alternating treatments design? I want to get some baseline information from y'all. All right, so Ellie says no baseline. So that is a feature, but it's not totally unique to this design. All right, cool. I like where Tiny Blessings is going. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, so Myra says multiple interventions alternating at once. What do you mean by like alternating at once? What does that mean? Yeah, kind of same with Cecilia. She says multiple treatments at the same time. What does that mean? Can you break that down a little bit further? Yeah, I like where Eileen's going. Cool. Yeah, so a lot of people are saying like that multiple interventions at the same time. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like how Elizabeth broke that down. So she says like one intervention one day and then another intervention the next day. Very cool. I like how you broke that down. Cool. Yeah, answer's looking good. We got a little bit of a mix here. Yeah, Jasmine saying it's used in an FA. Yeah, that's a good fact that most of our functional analyses do use this alternating treatments design. Absolutely. Okay, yeah, cool. I like Eileen's example. So she's saying like if you want to know if it's more effective to study in the morning or at nighttime, so you'd flip-flop like study in the morning on Monday and study in the evening on Tuesday. I like that. Yeah, that's a good example there. Yes, Mayoni nailed it there. Mayoni Rick's killing it. She says rapidly alternating between our treatments. Love it, love it, love it. Perfect. So yeah, you guys are on the right track. This is the main feature that is totally unique to our alternating treatments design. So forget like multiple interventions, forget like multiple people, forget like at the same time too. This is really the way that you want to remember this, is that we're rapidly alternating between our conditions. So let's look at our graph here so we can see some how that works. We've got a functional analysis that is graphed here on a standard multi-element. So note that there is no baseline. We mentioned that that is a possible feature of this design. So looking at this, we start with our square condition, then we move to our diamond condition, and then we go right to our triangle. So pretty much every session, we're switching up which condition is actually going on. So again, we're rapidly alternating between those conditions. We're not testing them all at the same time. That would be incorrect because we're not doing like escape, play, and attention like all in the same moment. But we're rapidly switching between these. It's really the best way to think about this. So if you take out anything from alternating treatments design, remember this: you're rapidly alternating between our conditions. That's the thing that's most unique about this design. As far as visually identifying on a graph if a multi-element or an alternating treatments design is occurring, those are AKA terms for each other, completely interchangeable. What we're going to look at is that there's different independent variables on different sessions. So we can see that here we've got session 1 is our square that is labeled as attention here. Number 2 is our diamond that's labeled as escape. And then we have number 3 is our triangle labeled as play. So that's what you want to look at, is that these are different independent variables and not necessarily different behaviors. So really make sure these labels are talking about IVs instead of DVs. Cool. Yeah, Yolana's asking a good question. Can you have a baseline just not required? Absolutely. So you can always take a baseline. It's just an optional thing. So you don't always have to, but you can have it. It's definitely kosher. So yeah, again, baseline is optional. You can have it, but don't need it. You can skip it. So that's kind of cool. As far as like the utility for this design, what it does is it allows you to test out many different independent variables very quickly. So since we're doing the rapid alternation, we're getting results really fast on whether these interventions are doing what we want or not. When you are trying to figure out experimental control, or like if something is effective, you can either make the comparison to a baseline condition. So this one we don't have a baseline condition, but we could compare it to a baseline condition if we had one. You can also compare it to a control condition. When we are doing a functional analysis, the play condition serves as a control condition. So this is very common where in our alternating treatments design, our control condition is just another condition that we're rapidly alternating between. And you can also compare this to other treatment conditions. So for example, like I could compare the level of this escape condition to the level of the attention condition, and that is also a valid comparison that we can make. Cool. So any of these are totally cool. And remember, when we're determining experimental control, I have this on every slide, and hopefully you guys keep seeing it and don't forget it. To evaluate experimental control, what we're really going to want to do is compare the level between our conditions. Let's recap from last time. Let's look at this escape condition, and where would you guys estimate the level to be at for this condition? Let's see that in chat. So see if you remember what level is. Where would we estimate the level for this escape condition on our graph? Remember, level is going to be a single number. Like a lot of people can describe it as like low, medium, and high. We talked about last week where like that's really not that great because it's a little bit less descriptive of what's going on. So for a level, we want to give a single value. All right, we are all over the place. Looks like 4, 5, 6, and 7 are really common answers. I don't need some rationales here. If you really want to master this concept, let's see those rationales. Why do you think it's 4, 5, 6, or 7? I'll give you a hint. One of those is correct. No worries if you missed last week. We'll go over level again. But yeah, if you did miss last week, definitely go ahead and watch that video from last week. It's really good information in there. Okay, so Heather says the data point is at approximately 7. So like, which data point? Are you looking at just this one? Okay, Jen says because 3 data points would be around that. Her guess was, oh, she switched. She had 6.5 and 7. Okay, okay. Let's see what else. So yeah, Kira is saying you have to cut through the middle. Yeah, that's definitely what we want to do for level. Yeah, Easter's on that too. Good. All right, so yeah, remember when we're estimating level, we want to draw a horizontal line that cuts through the center of all of these data points. So if I'm going to draw this line, I think I'm going to draw it somewhere around 5. 5 really is the best answer here. If you were closer to 4, if you said like 4.5, I think that's also good. So if you said 4 or 5, I think you're pretty accurate here. 7, like if you said 6 or 7, I think that's gonna be way too high. So look, if we draw this at 6, really like it's like 80% of these data points are below that line. So 6 is not great. 7, even less not great. Like there's only 2 data points above that line here. So 7 would not be a great line. Really, we're going to have this level line somewhere around 4 or 5. Let me just refresh my screen here so you guys can see that. Again, so we'll draw the correct level line. I think it's somewhere going to be around 4 or 5 is going to be our best here. Nice job to everybody who got that. Yeah, Eileen said she actually calculated the mean and she got 4.5. Cool. So yeah, again, like I said, between 4 and 5 looks pretty groovy here. So if you said 4 or 5, you're right on track. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So remember, level refers to the average of all the data points. So Eileen actually got her calculator out and she added and got the mean for this, got a level. That is the surefire way to get a level. So if you like totally don't know, just get your calculator out and you can add all those values together and then divide by how many values that you actually have. Cool, cool, cool. So we have, for the escape condition, the level is 4.5 as Eileen calculated, even more accurate than my estimation here. And we can compare this to our play condition. So play is the triangles. We see play is at a straight 0 pretty much. So we can say that there is good experimental control where the escape condition does reinforce this behavior because we have a large difference between our play condition and this escape condition. Absolutely. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, Tiny Blessings is saying, like, would it be too time consuming to do the level? Yeah, it probably would be if you're taking the exam. It really depends, like, who you are. Some people finish the exam in 2 hours. But if you're, like, if your exam usually takes, like, 3.5 to 4 hours, then probably not the best strategy to do your calculator and more rely on these estimations. So again, you can just kind of cut through the middle of this data path, and we want to do it a single number, so this is going to be a horizontal line. Cool. Yeah, great stuff here, crew. Let's talk about the utility for this design. So I always like to relate some of these features to how we're actually going to use this design. So again, a couple of our features here is that we're rapidly alternating between conditions. We can skip baseline, and we can test many independent variables very quickly. And this is going to directly relate to how we're going to use this design. So it's great if you have lots of interventions that you need to evaluate very quickly. Now, when I was asking about the alternating treatments design earlier, some of you mentioned that the unique feature is that we have to have lots of independent variables. And I think that's coming from like some of the other test prep places. That is not true. So you can actually test out one independent variable with a multi-element design. And the way that you would do that is that you just rapidly alternate between a control condition and the independent variable. So you don't have to always have many interventions, but you can test them out. And what's really cool is that it gives you some really quick data on whether those things are going to work or not. This is the best design for severe and dangerous behavior. Again, I want to go back to those the features of this design. So it's really good for our severe and dangerous behavior because our baseline is optional. We can totally skip through baseline and we can immediately throw treatments into place. So that's a really good feature for this. The second thing is that we don't have to remove the treatment ever. So compared to a withdrawal design where we would have to remove the treatment at some point, this design we don't have to do that. So that's really neat. In addition, we can test out many interventions very quickly. So if we're not sure what's going to be most effective, then what we can do is we can test out many interventions. We can get some data really fast on what's going to work and get our clients an effective intervention ASAP. Another neat thing is that you can use this for learned or irreversible behavior. So it works a little bit weirdly, but it does work out. So let's say like we're teaching somebody like how to stay on a bike for long periods of time, and they have no balance. Their baseline is like, yeah, they fall over on their bike immediately. Let's say we want to use like two different strategies for teaching that. So what we could do is alternate between those. And what happens is that like they might get a little bit better. So let's say we have like circles here and then I'll do squares. So let's say they get a little bit better with the circle condition. Then we do our square condition. Then they learn a little bit there as well. Sorry, these aren't the clearest. And then we do like another circle and then we do another square. I'll make this one more square. So what happens is that they kind of get equal exposure to each intervention. So on this first circle, they've only experienced the one session of circle. Now in our square condition, like the circle, like them experiencing the circle condition is going to affect like how well they're going to perform in the first square condition. But the neat thing is that when we go back to the circle condition, now they've experienced the circle and the square condition. So the learning that they've experienced kind of evens out. So you can use this for those learned and irreversible behaviors because they kind of get like equal exposure to each treatment, and we're collecting data that relates to that the whole way through. As somebody mentioned earlier, this is the graph of choice for a functional analysis. So we do have a functional analysis displayed on this chart here. And a while back when I was working for a Rogue ABA, we actually did a little bit of a literature review. We looked at, I think, like 150 articles that had functional analyses in them. And there was like every single article did a multi-element for their functional analysis. There was actually one article that we found that did a withdrawal design for their functional analysis, but it was only after they got inconclusive data for their alternating treatments design. So 99% of the time, if you recognize functional analysis conditions on the chart, it's almost guaranteed to be a multi-element, or at least have some factor of a multi-element here. Cool. Looking good. Eileen saying her seminar teacher used bar graphs for FAs. So you may use a bar graph, but that doesn't necessarily change the design. So like it changes how like the display of data is, but it doesn't change the design that's being used. So just like a bar graph could really be any design. It's not particular, but they more than likely use a multi-element. Alrighty. I want to talk through this graph a little bit, so I'm going to ask you guys some questions about this one. First up, I want to ask you, what kind of design do we have here? And then, so yeah, I'm going to ask you two things right now, and I want to see your answers in chat to both of them. So you can say your answers separately if you want. First question is, what kind of experimental design do we have here? Second question is, if an intervention is effective, which one is most effective? So again, the questions are what design? Which design? And then what's effective? if anything? All right, most people saying reversal design here. Remember, if you are new here, if you really want to get the most out of this session, you're also going to provide some rationale for your answer. So we always encourage rationales because it shows that you have more thorough understanding of a concept and getting things right for the right reason. So you can guess and you can get a lot of answers correct on the exam, but what we really strive for in understanding behavior is that we want you to learn the concepts and know the ins and outs of them. So let's see some rationales explaining why you think that it is whatever particular design. All right, Myra's saying it's a reversal design with entry intervention being the most effective due to low levels. All right, is entry an independent variable here? What do you guys think about that? Let's see. We got another answer here. Janie says reversal because it returns returns to baseline and returns to the independent variable. Very nice. Love that, Janie. We've got Maria here. She says it's a multiple treatment design because it compares 2 or more different IVs. So yeah, it is a multiple treatment design, but remember, multiple treatment doesn't necessarily specify a design. So multiple treatment could be either a multiple treatment reversal or it could be a multi-element. So make sure to specify that as well. Farah says it's a reversal because she sees baseline and intervention conditions. I like that. Yeah, Jasmine, really nice reversal because it returned to baseline. I like that. Good. Yeah, Helen on the right track too. Reversal because it has 2 baselines. Love it. Smaller group tonight, but you guys are killing it. Love these answers. Yeah, Eileen is correct. So entries actually are a dependent variable. So a couple of different ways that we can see that. So we have entries and approaches that are labeled here as our 2 different lines. And then we can see on our y-axis it says approaches and entries per hours. So that is actually specifies that these are dependent variables and not independent variables. Nice job pointing that out, Eileen. Cool. Tiny Blessings is saying the baseline is not steady, which I thought made her think that it was not a reversal design. So that's what we talked about earlier in class, is that if the behavior is trending in the opposite direction intended for our next phase, we can phase change here. So we don't need stable data to phase change. So let's look at this. We're trying to decrease entries with a visual barrier. So what we have is that we have ascending data in our baseline. This is a totally cool time to do our phase change. And this was a JABA published article, so you know it's legit. I'm not just spewing bullshit to you guys, I promise. Cool, yeah, Farah has another good point here. So she's asking, is visual barrier the independent variable? Yeah, so we actually have 2 different independent variables in here. So we have this visual barrier plus redirection, and then we've got another independent variables, which is this redirection only. So if we were to, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this graph now. So what we do have is the answer for what kind of design is that this is a reversal design. Pure reversal design. There's no alternating treatment elements in here. This one, it's just a pure reversal design. Let's go ahead and label our phases. So we start with our baseline. We go to intervention 1, so that's going to be our B phase. We go back to baseline, back to our intervention 1. Now we actually do intervention 2, which we can label as C, and then we can see that it goes back to our visual barrier and redirection. And we go back to a B phase here. So we have A, B, C, B as our type of reversal design here. As we talked about earlier, we have we can look at our chart title, which says decreasing entry with a visual barrier. So our entry, this is going to be our dependent variable, and our independent variable is going to be our visual barrier. So good to see that. Another way we could have saw those dependent variables is that by reading our y-axis label, it says approaches and entries per hour, and then we can see that the data paths are actually graphing our entries and approaches with our legend over here as well. Good stuff, good stuff. Let's keep going through this one. So if we want to see if these things are effective, we need to draw some level lines. So since we have two different behaviors, we're going to have two different level lines for most of these. So we're going to go ahead and draw those. We're going to estimate this one's about here, and then we have here. On our second baseline condition, it looks like the two behaviors lined up perfectly every time. So we can just draw that one level line to for both of them. Now let's go back to our second B phase, somewhere around here and like here looks pretty good. And we go to our C phase, and then we have same kind of pattern where the two behaviors are perfectly lined up. Then we go to our final phase, and we kind of get something like this. All right, so now that we have our level lines, we can determine if things are effective. So we have two different interventions, and what I want you guys to see is that we saw bigger decreases, bigger changes in level with our visual barrier plus redirection than we saw with just our redirection only. So if we were to compare this baseline level to our second independent variable, we see the decrease is not as great as it was with our first independent variable that used this combination here, the visual barrier plus redirection. We also saw two different behaviors here. In general, it looks like the intervention was more effective for our entries than it was for our approaches. So we can see that because our approaches, there's typically more of them in all of our different phases, where the entries are a little bit lower level for each of these. So we can say this is more effective for entries than it is for approaches. Looks pretty good. All right, we had a couple of questions here. Let's go ahead and look at those. Eileen's asking what happened on July 9th, 14th, and 19th. So yeah, 9th, 14th, 19th, that was all our first intervention phase. So nothing crazy happened. We just saw a decrease to 0 for our entries, and then we saw a general decrease for our approaches. It wasn't a crazy decrease, but it was a general decrease there. Cool. Catching up in chat. Farrah's asking, can I explain the stability and baseline for phase change? So again, for most of these, we actually didn't have stable data. So again, stable data is not necessary for phase changes. If our other pattern is if it's trending in the opposite direction intended by the next phase, we can also phase change there. So that's what we had in our first baselines, that we saw as quickly ascending, but the next phase was intended to decrease the behavior, so that is totally cool to phase change there. No issues at all. We saw that in our second one as well, so our second baseline. So again, we saw this, it was pretty like, I'd say like this is really no trend, but we saw at the end that it was quickly ascending, like the problem was getting worse. That's a good time to phase change as well. So again, if it's trending in the opposite direction intended by the next phase, then we can also phase change. We are Gucci there. All right, so back to my question about which one is most effective. It looks like our visual barrier plus redirection was more effective than the redirection only. Again, we can see that because there is larger changes in level between our conditions. So we saw great decreases when we use our combination treatment, and the decreases here weren't as great when we use the redirection only. So this tells us that that visual barrier is a very necessary ingredient to decrease this behavior. Cool. All right, I know that was a lot. But you guys are killing it tonight. I'm loving all the deep thinking and rationales going on. How about we do a giveaway? So we'll do a giveaway right now. You can win any product that you want. Well, not any product. You can win either a Beat the Beast 1, Beat the Beast 2, or the Fluency Question Package. If you're the winner, it is your choice of what you can get. So we're going to do a random number generator for this, 1 to 500. You're allowed to guess one number. If you guess multiple times, you will be disqualified. So let's see those numbers into chat. Give me one number between 1 and 500. Closest number is going to be our winner. Let's see it. Oh, hey, Amber. How's it going? Good to see you here. We talking experimental design. It's giveaway time. That's the most fun part. You know, we love giving away stuff. All right, one guess per person. We'll draw our number in about 10 seconds. Smaller group tonight, so you've got a good chance of winning. All right, last call for numbers. All right, we're gonna make Kira Davenport the last individual here. This is for a Beat the Beast mock exam. Let's see, we've got 302 is our number. Let's see who is closest. 302. All right, I'm seeing Easter at 323, so she's about 21 off. What else we got here? Who's closer? Oh, we got Termikia is actually one closer. Oh wait, Harmony is even one closer than Termikia. So Harmony is 19 away. Is there anybody closer? Oh man, this is a close one. I think Harmony, if I'm not mistaken, I think Harmony is our winner. All right, we're gonna give it to Harmony. Oh wait, Crystal says Courtney. Oh wait, Courtney was 318. Oh, I think it is Courtney. She's only 16 away. All right, yeah, Courtney, thanks Amber and Crystal for double checking that. I'm so bad at seeing these numbers right. Courtney Williams is our winner. To claim your prize, send me an email, understandingbehaviorofficial@gmail.com. Congratulations to Courtney. And again, you won either a copy of Beat the Beast 1, Beat the Beast 2, or our Fluency Question Package. Shoot me an email of which one you want, and we'll hook you up after stream. I know, that was funny. There's like, I got it wrong like 4 times. I'm like so bad at this. Yeah, Amber, let's definitely catch up. Shoot me an email. We'll set something up. All right, let's talk about the multiple baseline designs next. Multiple baseline designs, pretty cool, I guess. I don't know. I actually really don't like the multiple baseline design, but they're all right. We'll talk about them. In a multiple baseline design, what we're doing is we're testing out a single intervention. So note with our withdrawal design and our alternating treatments, we could test out multiple interventions. That is not the case with the multiple baseline design. We're only doing one intervention. A lot of people miss this fact, so try to drill it in. This is a pretty unique feature for this design. Let's talk about how it shows experimental control. So instead of doing like this reversal or withdrawal of treatments, what we're doing is that we're replicating this A-B relationship across either different settings, people, or behaviors. So note it's only an A-B relationship. Going back to our baseline logic, what I want to highlight here is that what we're doing is we're replicating this across our different dependent variables. So what we have here is verification occurs in this second dependent variable when our first dependent variable has already experienced our intervention. So we're continuing baseline data with this second dependent variable while the first one is intervention. That allows us to get verification. And in multiple baseline design, verification is not enough to show experimental control. what we actually need is replication. So when we go to our second intervention condition and we show there's a big difference in level, so let's go ahead and draw our level lines here. We can do that for our second baseline as well. We've got pretty stable data in baseline. And then in our second intervention condition, our level line looks something like that. So what we saw is that there's a pretty big increase in level between these conditions. And we can say that we have experimental control once we've shown replication with this design. So again, what we're doing is we're replicating this A-B relationship across our different settings, people, or behaviors. With our settings, people, and behaviors, another thing that a lot of people miss is that these are our dependent variables. So like the behavior for Rachel, for example, is our DV1. Behavior for Sarah here is our DV2. And then we have DV3 for Jackie. Cool. Yeah, Crystal's right on it, too. Verification and replication are a little bit tricky in this design. So again, verification occurs with the extension of the baseline in our following dependent variable. Replication occurs when we implement that intervention with our next dependent variable, and we show that same effect. So we did have this replication here twice, and we even have it a third time here. Note in this little box, we have verification for a third time, and then we can see our level line here. This one is more of a trended line, so we see that increase in our dependent variable when we implement our independent variable here. Cool. Looking groovy. Yeah, that's funny. People are like, don't knock the design. I've been using it for my research. There's a reason for that. We'll talk about that in a sec. So again, our dependent variables are these different settings, behaviors, or people. Our independent variable is going to be our intervention, as always. As far as visually identifying this design, what you want to do is you want to look for this staircase pattern. And what this staircase pattern is doing is that it shows that our dependent variables have different durations of baseline. So we saw in our first one that we had 5 sessions of baseline. Our second one, we had 10 sessions of baseline. And our third one, we had 15 sessions of baseline. So that's our main defining features, that we have baselines with differing durations. And again, that's created by this staircase pattern with our stat graphs. So again, stat graphs is not enough. We really need to see this staircase pattern that shows that we have baselines of different durations. And yeah, Farah's right on track. That's like staggered implementation of our independent variable. Absolutely. All right. Cool. So yeah, what we want to do is we want to look for that phase change pattern after the intervention has been implemented with our previous condition. So we see the phase change here, and then we have the phase change occur later on with our second dependent variable, and even later on for our third dependent variable. Sweet. As far as demonstrating experimental control, we demonstrate it by, again, replicating that A-B relationship across many different dependent variables. So, we really need to see that replication, and we need to see it occur with multiple of our dependent variables. If you have 2, that is enough to show some experimental control, but the more the merrier here. Let's talk about the utility of our multiple baseline design. We got another clean graph here. The people who did the research here, maybe we'll get a little mad at this, but it is the most commonly used design. That's because it's the easiest to run. And not saying your research is weak because of that, but in general, it is the easiest to run because because you don't have to show reversals. With that, it also shows the weakest experimental control. So remember, we talked about like the spectrum of experimental control is if we are actually doing that removal of our intervention. So with our multiple baseline design, we never remove that intervention. So this one shows weaker experimental control in general. Withdrawal designs, we do a clear removal, so it's like we have our baseline and then we have our treatment condition, and then we go to baseline again. So clear like addition and removal of the intervention. Alternating treatments design is just slightly weaker than our withdrawal design. That's because we're removing interventions, but we're not always doing like clean removals. Usually like we're removing and then changing the intervention. So there still is removal involved in there, but it's not quite as strong as the withdrawal design because we're removing and changing rather than just removing completely and making those comparisons. Again, multiple baseline design is the weakest demonstration of experimental control because we're never removing our intervention. Not to say it's a bad design, not to say it doesn't have its purposes, but as far as experimental control goes, it is kind of the weakest here. Some of the advantages of our multiple baseline design is that we can use this for irreversible behavior. So again, we don't have to show verification by removing an intervention. So irreversible behaviors are totally Gucci for the multiple baseline design. And it's also a pretty flexible design, so you can use this for a pretty wide variety of behaviors, whether they're skill acquisition behaviors or problem behaviors. The one limitation here is that it's not the best design for severe or dangerous behaviors. The reason for that is because this extended baseline is a requirement of this design. So like if we had like SIB and let's say these like 3 different types of SIB, it might take 15 sessions or so before we can implement that treatment with a third dependent variable. That's not ideal, not so great. So that's one of the main limitations, that we're not going to use this with severe or dangerous behaviors. Eileen's asking, would you know why our school would make us use one that despite having the weakest experimental control? Probably because like as a grad student, it's just easier to run and like it'll get you through your project. And it's also like, since it's easier to do, like you're probably going to get more, it's like higher likelihood that you're going to get published because it's there's a higher likelihood that you're going to get good data from it. Where if you do a withdrawal or an alternating treatment, it can be a little bit riskier because it's not guaranteed. It's not as like guaranteed that your intervention is going to work. So it could be like a publishing thing. There could be a ton of reasons for it, but those are the 2 biggest ones that kind of come to mind. Kira's asking a question. So another con is that it doesn't demonstrate control, right? So again, you can show experimental control by this design, but it is a weaker demonstration. So again, it's not that it can't show experimental control, is that it's just kind of weak experimental control. So like if we say like a withdrawal design, like this is like our gold standard, this is like our strongest experimental control. So let's say that's like 100%. Our alternating treatments design is just a little bit behind, so I'd say like keep that at like 90%. Our multiple baseline design is like 30 to 40%. So it is significantly weaker experimental control. We can't be as confident with this design, but it still can show some experimental control. So again, it's not no experimental control, it's just weaker experimental control. Like we can be like kind of confident, even if our data looks great, we can be like kind of confident, but it's not like the best thing ever. Cool. Let's talk about multiple baseline design variations. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the multiple probe design. Multiple probe design is exclusively used for irreversible behaviors. So it's only used for irreversible behaviors. And the reason for this is because we can expect the behavior not to be learned in baseline, and it won't be learned until after our intervention phase. So let's go ahead and look at this multiple probe graph that we have here. Again, we can kind of see this multiple baseline element of it because we have our staircase pattern that shows different durations of baseline. So we have our baselines get longer and longer as we move through our different dependent variables. Note for this one is that in our baseline conditions, the behavior stays at 0 the whole time. So again, this is an irreversible behavior, and it's something that we don't expect for them to be learned in baseline. So what that allows us to do is we can just take our probe data, and we don't have to take data on every session. So let's go ahead and look at our first dependent variable. We did 3 sessions of baseline, all at 0. Note during our intervention phase, so this instruction with CTD, we did not take probe data. We took data the entire time. We took it on every single session. This is because this is where the data is most likely to vary, because when they're learning it, the data is going to slowly ascend, and we want to capture like how quickly it's ascending. So totally cool to take, or sorry, we always want to take all of the data points during our intervention phase. It's only the baseline phases and post-intervention phases where we're going to move to our probes. So let's go ahead and look at this. So they had 3 data points at 100%. They're like, okay, cool, they met the mastery criteria. We're going to move to probing now. So they did 3 more sessions, they got 100%, and now there's a long period of time where they did not take any data. And again, this is totally cool because we don't expect the behavior to be unlearned after our intervention. So we don't necessarily need to waste our time running through all of these tests because we're like, yeah, they still got it. And then we can just do a little check-in and be like, yep, they still got it. We're good to go. And we saved us a bunch of time. But again, you can only use this under this circumstance where we have an irreversible behavior. Let's go ahead and look at dependent variable 2. So now during our baseline, we can also take our probes. So like we didn't teach them these words. We don't expect them to learn the words out in the wild. So again, we don't need to take baseline data in all of these sessions. We can take probe data instead. Do this double check right before we implement our intervention. Yep, they still don't know it. We're good to go. Now, during our intervention phase, we take data the whole time. So again, this is where data are most likely to vary. We want that 3 at 100. So it looks like they had 2 at 100 and then 1 at 90. And then they got the 3 at 100. And now we move back to probing. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Good to see you, Eileen. Have a great night. So that's our multiple probe design. Again, main things to highlight here, you only use it for irreversible behaviors. The reason why is because we don't expect it to be learned in baseline. So we're like, I'm going to see these straight zeros the whole way. And then we don't expect it to be unlearned in our post-intervention phase. So like once they got it, they got it. Let's talk about our other variation. Let me clear my lines off here. This is the delayed, or also referred to as the non-concurrent multiple baseline design. The key feature about this one is that instead of essentially like the baseline data collection starts at different times. So like it looks like session 1 here, like we started baseline for our DV1, but it took several sessions before we got our baseline data started for our DV2. Took even longer for DV3. We waited like a really long time for DV4. So that's the main characteristic of our our delayed multiple baseline design, is that we're going to delay the start of our data collection until later for some of our later DVs. So if you see that kind of pattern, be like, yep, delayed multiple baseline, also non-concurrent multiple baseline, either way, Gucci. All right, I've got some questions for y'all. Let's go ahead and check these out. A researcher is interested in comparing the effectiveness of 2 different teaching methods on the acquisition of new vocabulary words by children with developmental disabilities. Which experimental design would best suit this purpose? Let's see those answers and rationales in chat. What you guys got? All right, I see a lot of answers, but not a whole lot of rationales. Remember, if you really want to take the most out of this session, let's see those rationales. Hema was our first one here. She says, alternating, since you are simply comparing the effectiveness of 2 teaching methods. Okay, I like where you're going. Who else wants to give this a go? Janie says B, because they want to compare. Compare what? Amy says alternating treatments because it's 2 different teaching methods. Okay. Ooh, yeah, like tiny blessings. We can rapidly change our conditions to 2 different methods. Okay, I like where you're going. Yeah, Karen, I love the details that you have there. So she says like the behaviors are not irreversible. Good. Good support there. Yeah, Harmony, that looks great. So she says you have 2 different teaching methods and it cannot be unlearned. I love that. Great rationales coming through. Keep it up, crew. Yeah, nice, Ellie. Meoni looks good. We need one more part there because there's multiple interventions that could do that. So yeah, if you only said because we're comparing 2 different interventions with each other, remember you can use 2 different interventions for both of these designs. Actually all 3 of these designs. Oh man. So we need a little bit more than just multiple interventions here. Yeah, Farah, I like where you're going. I like your rationale, but maybe you can reconsider your answer. Yeah, Courtney, I really like that. Nice job. Really great detail. See, that's what I'm saying. You need those rationales to make sure you completely understand these concepts. Absolutely. Tricky stuff, tricky stuff. The thing is, like, no matter how tricky something is, you can always break it down to the simple components. So really focus on, or rewatch this video later if you didn't take notes, and focus on the utility of all of those different designs, and you can see these components and get your answers pretty clearly. Cool, Courtney, I like where you're going. Good stuff, good stuff. Let's check this one out. The answer here is going to be B, the alternating treatments design. Really nice job, everybody. So the rationale here is that we have 2 different teaching methods, so that does eliminate our multiple baseline design. No good here because it's only going for 1. We're looking at the acquisition of new vocabulary words. So again, new vocabulary words is likely to be an irreversible behavior. Remember, reversal designs are not good with irreversible behavior. So that does eliminate both C and D as options, leaving us with B as our best option, the alternating treatments design. Really nice job. There are some great rationales in there. So if you nailed that, you're killing it. You're killing it. All right, let's talk about changing criterion designs real quick. So changing criterion designs, these are used to gradually change the behavior. So gradually change is a big element here. And it's a behavior that's currently in the individual's repertoire. So we're not teaching a new behavior with this design. We're changing something that's already in their repertoire. The most unique feature about a changing criterion design is that we use a goal line or a horizontal prediction line to help shape behavior. So we can see these dashed lines here are our goal lines, or we can also call them horizontal prediction lines, and we are gradually changing the rate of this behavior by using that goal line. Usually there's going to be some kind of consequence associated with meeting the criteria of the goal line. So if we're trying to increase the behavior, they meet the goal line or go higher, then that's great. They're going to get some kind of reinforcement or maybe avoid punishment. Doesn't really matter. And then if we have are trying to decrease the behavior, if they meet it or get fewer, then there's going to be some kind of reinforcement or avoidance of punishment, something like that. Yeah, Chelsea, we started at 7 tonight, different time. It was posted like a million places, so sorry. All right, for a changing criterion design, we can use this to increase or decrease a behavior. So yeah, you can use it for increasing or decreasing a behavior, but again, it's going to be something that's already in the repertoire. If it's a severe or a dangerous behavior, like we'll probably not want to use the changing criterion design. So if like we're trying to like decrease like sexual assaults or something, it was like, yeah, you only assaulted 3 people today. That's great. Here's reinforcement. Like, no, we're just not gonna do that. So again, not great for severe or dangerous behavior. But if it's a less severe behavior, then we could go ahead and use a changing criterion design, no problem. All right, continuing this. So as far as experimental control, changing criterion designs are the weirdest one. So it shows experimental control by having the level of the behavior conform to the level of the goal line. So we want to see the level of behavior exactly aligned with that level of the goal line. So in general, like the data that we have here is like fucking awesome because most of our data points are pretty much exactly on this goal line. Sometimes there's like one or two warm-up sessions to get there, but for the most part, like it's pretty much exactly on the goal line, which is great. We'd love to see that. Farther away from the goal line is less experimental control. So let's say like let's say like the behavior even did better than the goal line. So let's say like we had the goal line here, but our data looked like this. This is actually a better clinical outcome, but it's weaker experimental control. So remember, for experimental control here, we want to see the level of the behavior exactly aligned with the goal line because that's what control is. We predict it's going to be here, the behavior is here. If it goes above or below it, even though this might be a better clinical outcome if we're trying to increase this behavior, this is weaker experimental control because it did not go there where we set it there. So again, better clinical outcome here, but weaker experimental control because it did not exactly align. Yeah, sorry folks. I know a lot of people are just showing up now at our normal start time, but we did start at 7 p.m. Eastern today. Make sure you're reading all the things, keeping updates. I sent an email out and had it on the event. So hopefully you saw it, but if you're not, just pay attention a little bit more. I'm glad you're still here anyway. We still have a lot more in this presentation, so don't worry. There's some good stuff to go on here. I know, sorry crew, I know I switched it up on y'all. All right. So when we're looking at experimental control for the changing criterion design, there's a couple different ways that we can enhance experimental control. So again, the theme of it all, we want to see the behavior exactly aligned with the to the level of the goal line, but we can enhance our experimental control by doing more jumps. So this one actually had a lot of different criterion jumps here, so that gets us even more confident that our level is working here. We can change the size of the jumps, and I think they do that really nice job here. So this one we had a couple small jumps, and then we did like a bigger jump too, and we saw the behavior still conform. So that makes us even more confident that this intervention does what we think it's going to do. We can also do something called a bidirectional change. This is when we change the level of the goal line in the opposite direction of the overall goal. So in this one, if we set it to a decreasing line, and then we saw our data points exactly line up with that as well, that is, again, an even better demonstration of experimental control. Yeah, so Karen is asking about like the jumps again. So the jumps are just like how much you're changing the level of the goal line. So like this first jump here, this was like a jump of about 2. But if we look at this jump here, this one went from 10 to 15. So this was a jump of 5. So if we're changing up like how much or how large we're making these jumps and the behavior still conforms, they can make us more confident that this intervention works. Yeah, it's a good graph, Crystal, for sure. Good question. We've got one more changing criterion design here. So yeah, a couple things I wanted to note here. Let's so if we look at this is actually, they are doing an exercise program. So they're biking, and then they have like reinforcement based off of like how many revolutions that they're doing on their bike. So this one, first one is like a VR80. So after about 80 revolutions on the bike, then they get a reinforcer. And look at this one. It's like they set the goal line here at 80, but they got way more revolutions per minute than expected. So this one, again, is an example of like good clinical outcome, but weaker experimental control because we see large differences between the level of this goal line and the level of the behavior. Now let's look at this one here, this VR 125 for Steve. Now looking at this one, we see the level of the goal line pretty much perfectly conform to the level of the behavior. So this phase shows really strong experimental control because most of these lines are on our goal line. And even though we got a better clinical outcome here than expected, this shows weak experimental control because we set the goal here and the behavior is here. It did not control the behavior very well, but it did increase the behavior beyond what we expected. So cool, again, cool clinically, not so great for our experiment. We see, yeah, if you look at the rest of this graph, you can see that that happens in a couple other situations here. So like this VR 125, Sean is just going here really hard. But again, this shows weaker experimental control. But where we see like the behavior conform really nicely, like the start of this VR 100 looked really good, and then we started going above and beyond later on. So that's really cool. What's also cool is that this one, they did a reversal in here too. So they did a reversal of the baseline conditions without it. And again, you can kind of see a descending trend in most of these. So even though it's not stable, they were able to revert back to their treatment condition because it was, again, trending in the opposite direction intended by the next phase. Looking groovy, looking groovy. Yeah, Jordan's asking, do the jumps vary in size or is it gradual here? Yeah, we do see some variance in how much they're increasing the jumps here. So we see like this jump was really big, but this second jump here, not so big. So they did change the size of the jumps here. And again, that helps to show better experimental control. All right, cool. I've got a quiz for you. Then we're going to talk about internal and external validity. And then we're going to talk about experimental analyses. So we probably still have like half an hour left of this presentation. All right, let's check our next question. Again, let's see those rationales. Let's think them through. You are working with a client who exhibits 3 different types of disruptive behavior in the classroom. We have shouting out without raising a hand, leaving their seat without permission, and distracting other students. You plan to introduce a token economy system to address each behavior one at a time. Which experimental design would allow you to easily demonstrate the effectiveness of the token economy on each type of disruptive behavior? Let's see those answers and rationales in chat. What you guys got? It's kind of fun. Usually with our streams, we get like slowly decreasing amount of people here, but with the earlier time now, we got like a nice ascending trend here. Look at that chart. Look at that chart. I love a good chart. So look at that. I like that ascending trend. I'm a true data nerd. All right, let's see some of these answers and rationales. Loving all the rationales here. Looking really great. Yeah, Hem, I like where you're going. What do you guys think about the severity of these behaviors? Are these severe or dangerous behaviors? I think it's a good question to ask. Yeah, cool, Ash. Yeah, loving the rationales coming through. Yeah, Heather, that looks great. So a lot of people are just saying 3 different behaviors, but remember, 3 different behaviors isn't enough. We can do 3 different behaviors with a reversal design. We can do 3 different behaviors with an alternating treatments design. We can do 3 different behaviors with a multiple baseline design. So 3 behaviors is not enough for your rationale. You need more. Yes, yes, yes. I like the answers here. Yeah, Laura, nice. That looks good. All right. Cool beans. Let's go ahead and talk about this one. I love the answers coming through. We are going to use the multiple baseline design here. So a couple different things that we want to look at. So I did say 3 different types of disruptive behaviors. We look at these behaviors. So we have shouting out without raising a hand, leaving a seat without permission, and distracting other students. It's really important to know that these are not severe. So if these were severe behaviors, then we would not want to use the multiple baseline design. It would not be good here. Another important feature that a lot of people missed here is we're only testing out one independent variable. So we're looking at this token economy system. We want to see how it affects each of these 3 behaviors. So another great reason why we're going to use the multiple baseline design, because it tests out one intervention pretty easily, and it can show us the differences between all those behaviors very nicely. So a couple details to nail down for this one, but hopefully that helps to kind of like scan the question and look at what's going to be best here. Okay, next one up, let's check it out. Gertrude would like to test out an intervention to attempt to slowly decrease the amount of packs of cigarettes that she buys each week. Which experimental design would best fit this purpose? Let's see it in chat. Let's see those answers, rationales. Yes, thanks for that reminder, Crystal. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button on this video. We just got to 50. That's a pretty cool marker. I wonder if we can get to like 60 or 70. I don't know. We got 77 people here. I think some people that hit it like aren't here anymore. There might be something cool that happens if that number goes higher. I don't know. Cool. All right, some good rationales coming through here. I like the points that Vijaya is making. Fair. I think I want a little bit more on that one. Cool. Yeah, Ginger, I like where you're going. Is this a severe or dangerous behavior? Again, really good question to ask for pretty much all these experimental design questions. Are we looking at a severe or dangerous behavior? Yeah, Amanda, I really like that. That looks great. Yes, Heather, right on track too. Yes, Easter, love it. Good, yeah, Jen, that looks great. Awesome. Yeah, these are looking great. I'm loving all the answers coming through right now. Yeah, somebody mentioned that they're struggling with the reactivity. Try not to read chat. If you want to answer on your own, try not to read chat. You can also mute it while we're talking about the question so you don't hear what I'm saying. And then I can get you some feedback on your answer. At least you can compare your answer to my explanation later on too. We've got too many people for me to give feedback on everybody, but I try to get to as many as I can and vary it up a little bit. Yeah, Alyssa, I like where you're going. Yeah, cool. Courtney, great details there. All right, let's check this one out. Easier one here. It looks like you guys were right on track. We're doing a changing criterion design. So again, we're trying to slowly decrease. So she's not ready to go cold turkey. She just wants to gradually fade this out. So how many packs of cigarettes she buys each week. So it is a behavior that's already in our repertoire. We're going to use this intervention to gradually decrease the behavior. It's not a severe or dangerous behavior. I mean, I guess it is kind of dangerous, but it's not like severe. So like if she's been smoking cigarettes for 1 year or 20 years even, like the continuation of smoking a couple more packs is not going to kill her. So changing criterion is totally fine here. It's not an immediately dangerous behavior. We can gradually decrease this with this design. Looks great. All right, let's look at our next one. Ronaldo has 3 different forms of self-injury. He's got head banging, scratching, and wall charging. Due to the intense severity of these behaviors, an effective intervention needs to be discovered and implemented immediately. Which of the following would be the worst experimental design for this situation? Really note that this one is if you need to read the RTFQ here, which one is the worst intervention? Think this through. I want to see those rationales. All right, a lot of people saying reversal. Remember, when you're coming up with your rationales, I need you to compare it to some of the other options too. So this reversal, it's like using a BABC. I mean, so yeah, lots of things to consider on this one. This is a tricky one. I need some really good rationales here. All right, I think it's Kioana. Am I saying that right? She says, A, because you shouldn't remove the intervention for severe behavior. True, but does anything do it worse? Ooh, Jenny H. I like where you're going there. Keen eye. Ooh, I really like Carly's rationale there. That looks amazing, Carly. Nice job. Ooh, Ellie, which one? Okay, yeah, nice, Ellie. Way to land on it. Yeah, people are between A and C. This is a really great time. If you haven't used my strategy, play it out yet. I think this is a really good question to use that strategy. So what would this, people are between A and C for the worst one. Think that through. Like, how do these two situations work for this? And which one would be worse for that? Katarina says she's struggling and where to start studying. D, I would start with the part 1 video that we did last week. My voice was garbage in that one, so maybe check the part 1 video we did like a couple months ago instead. Yeah, Katarina, same thing. Check the videos. Part 1. Cool. Yeah, Alyssa, I like where you're going. Alrighty, let's go ahead and we're gonna talk about this one, crew. We are pretty split, but lots of great rationales came through here. I see some of y'all thinking real hard. I know, it's a tricky one, but tricky on purpose. This is how you're gonna learn. This is how you're gonna learn. Best answer here. is C, the multiple baseline design. Da, da, da. All right, so again, we have 3 different behaviors where the question was asking about the worst experimental design. If we wanted the best experimental design, that would be our option B, our alternating treatments design. Let's talk about the worst design. So again, what I said earlier is that play it out strategy is really helpful here. So let's do the play it out for our first option, reversal BABC. What's nice is that we get right into an intervention. So we might see like a rapid decrease, something like that, with our intervention phase. That's pretty cool. For our reversal to baseline, all we would really need is 1 data point here. So if we went back to baseline and we do this 1 data point and it's really bad, then what we can do is we can immediately switch back to our B condition. And then they're gonna get their treatment in place and it's gonna decrease the behavior, and that's gonna be wonderful. So really, like, this is bad, but it's like not really that bad because we only had to do this 1 session of baseline, reversing that treatment, and then we're good to go. Like we are totally good here. So again, not the best. Again, our alternating treatments would be best because we would never have to reverse to our baseline, but it's still like not the worst situation. So BABC, and then we could check out another intervention if it's better. Maybe we get something like that, and then we are good to go. And we really help this client. We decrease this behavior really fast. So again, not the best here, but it's not the worst. Let's talk about multiple baseline design. This one is our worst option, and this is because we have to have extended baselines before we can implement our treatment. So let's say we've got like 2 data points that are really bad here, and then we go right into our treatment, and then it decreases, and we get something like that. And then for our second baseline condition, we have to extend our baseline. So now they're in baseline even longer for this condition. Ugh, gross. Sorry, those data points should be high. So neglect. I'm gonna redraw this graph just so it's not confusing. So again, we have multiple baseline, 2 data points really high for our first dependent variable. And then we implement our intervention, it decreases, cool. For our second dependent variable, we would have to extend this baseline condition. So we'd have to have even longer baseline, and I did it again. But we're gonna have really high data points here. Just pretend this is part of the line. So we have really high data points here. We have this extended baseline for even longer periods of time. That's not great. Then we implement our intervention, and it decreases. And then we're good. Sorry, this graph is terrible. But the main thing I want to point out here is that we have really extended our baseline conditions. So now, compared to our BAB, where we only had to do the one session of baseline, now we had to do several sessions of baseline, and each one gets longer. I'm doing it again. These data points are going to be up here. And that's going to extend our baseline, and it's going to make sure that that they're not receiving effective treatment for a really long time, even though we have an effective treatment that's been identified. So C is our best option for best worst option here, because we have really extended baselines compared to our BABC, where we would only have to do one session of this baseline. Again, not the most ethical here, but it would be better than doing our multiple baseline where they're really extended in that baseline condition. Cool, looking good, looking good. I know we're over 60 likes, so I think we can get to 70. Using the changing criterion, so if we do the play it out here, it would focus on decreasing this behavior immediately, and you could also do quicker jumps with it. So like we might have, like, let's say like we take a baseline, it's really high. Like our first condition could be like a big reduction from there. So our goal line could be like set here, and then we could quickly reduce it there. There we're seeing immediate reduction, so we're getting treatment fairly quickly. So it's not as bad as our multiple baseline, which requires us to be in baseline for those longer periods of time. Let me catch up on chat here. Good. Yes. Yeah. So you would not want to stay in baseline for longer, and our multiple baseline would require us to stay in baseline for longer. Yeah. Again, it's not. Yes. Multiple baseline is not good for severe or dangerous behavior. Changing criterion really isn't either. Again, our best option would be our alternating treatments, because we can immediately hop into treatment and find what's going to be most effective immediately. So again, these are all hypothetical scenarios here. Like we're typically, again, if we actually were choosing the best design here, it's going to be the alternating treatments. This question was asking about the worst design, so we're doing the play it out option. Does that all make sense here, crew? Any questions on this one? This one was tricky, really required you to think, really required you to play it out. If you haven't watched that video on my question answering strategies yet, I would highly recommend it. Alrighty, new slide here. We're gonna talk a little bit about internal versus external validity. Karen said I didn't like that one. I know, the hard questions are hard, but that's how you're gonna learn the most. I always like the line, it's like a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. So if you want to be a skilled behavior analyst, you're going to challenge yourself with difficult questions, and you came to the right place for that, because I'm here to trick you all day. But not only am I just going to trick you, I'm going to teach you how to navigate the tricky stuff too. And that's why I think understanding behavior content's the best. So no big deal. But yeah, thanks for everybody for wrestling through that. Thanks for using all your brain power. Again, this is really how you're going to get the most out of these sessions, so I'm glad you're here working hard. Alrighty. Cool. Let's talk about internal versus external validity. So internal validity, this is referring to essentially to like how tight the experiment is. So you're looking at like within the whole experiment, that internal is like within the own experiment. And here's some of the factors that can affect internal validity. So did you choose an appropriate design? Also, did you choose a design that can show strong experimental control? Remember, withdrawal, reversal, and alternating treatments are way better than like multiple baseline design. So if we use a stronger design, we show stronger internal validity. We can also have the relevant look at like relevant participants. So if you had a participant that like wasn't a good match, so let's say you want to test out with like individuals with autism, and then you got a participant that didn't have autism, then that might affect like how strong your internal validity is. We can look at like the timeliness of the implementation of your procedure. So like maturation is something that can occur, and that's when like a client just like learns skills because they got older and experienced more things. So usually when we're doing an experiment, we want to have it kind of tight, and we want to have everything occurring within a short period of time. Strong IOA is also a good indicator of stronger internal validity. So if you have really weak IOA, that weakens your internal validity. Strong procedural integrity, very similar. So if the procedural integrity is like 50%, and like we can't really attribute the good experimental control or like the change of the behavior in relative to like a weakly implemented procedure. The main thing here, like this is kind of the theme of all of these, is that you want to control for confounding variables. So if all of these would be potentially confounding variables. So the more that we control for these, the tighter our experiment is going to be, and that shows a stronger internal validity. So again, internal validity, look at like how well things operate within the experiment itself. When we look at our external validity, this would be looking at like how widely the results expand to different things. So now we're looking at like our research results, how applicable are these things to other things? So this can be to like different people or different populations. It can be to different concepts or they're like similar concepts. And then it can also be to like similar procedures. So for example, like if we did like DRA research, we could probably have some external validity to DRI, for example. Or if we saw that something was effective in dog training, then it could also possibly be effective in cat training. And if it is, that shows stronger external validity. Think about like external validity. I would say like Skinner's research really had like the most external validity of anything. Like he, when he was like talking about like reinforcement or like discrimination training, like these things apply to every individual and every behavior ever. So if you want to look at like real good external validity, like look at like really basic concepts because these apply to all behavior. Where if you're looking at a more like particular procedure, if we're looking at like a response interruption and redirection on motor stereotypy, for example, then that's going to have a much more limited scope. It's going to have less external validity. So again, internal validity is about like how tight the experiment is. External validity is how widely it applies to other things. Cool, catching up on chat here. So, yeah, Ashley's asking, extraneous variables would relate to internal validity. Yeah, so extraneous variables are very similar to confounding variables. So, depending on like how well you control for those would also relate to internal validity. Absolutely. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, we're gonna skip experimental analyses tonight. My voice is just kind of getting shot, and I'm going to karaoke tonight, so I need to save my voice. And we've been going for 90 minutes already. If you want to check out the experimental analysis stuff, check out the last part 2 video that we did. I think it actually occurred on Halloween, so I'm like just in a silly costume too, so it's pretty fun. Go check that out if you want to get some more stuff on experimental analyses. And there's also some questions that relate to that as well. Definitely, if you haven't already, check out our mock exams on the shop. There is some really good quality stuff there. Understandingbehavior.shop is the place to go. Our mock exams are super affordable and super awesome, so you can just hit this catalog here, find all of our cool stuff. If you want to sign up for email alerts, you can do that on the bottom left over here. Just put your name and your email, super easy, and then you'll get emails about when all of these events are occurring. And yeah, check all this stuff out here. We've got some really awesome deals, really high quality products, awesome tutors as well. We've got Crystal here in chat. Molly is wonderful as well. Newer product here, we have our study hall recordings and notes. So if you missed the study halls with Crystal and Molly on Mondays and Wednesdays, you can now access those for just $20. Those are also available on the Understanding Behavior app. You can also access 2 free mini mocks and 3 free fluency questions on the Understanding Behavior app. It's available on iOS and on Android. So definitely go check those out if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight and all of your participation. Yeah, I could tell you guys were really working hard tonight, so I appreciate all the effort, and hopefully you took some fun things out of this session. Thanks, Crystal, for being my in-chat moderator tonight, too. I really appreciate you. You're amazing. Yeah, Molly and I are both in Colorado. Crystal is in Ohio, actually. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. Hopefully you enjoyed this presentation and learned a few things. We'll be back next week with more fun topics. I forget what the topic's going to be, but it's going to be awesome, I promise. And then Monday and Wednesday with Molly and Crystal. Molly on Mondays, Crystal on Wednesdays. Definitely sign up for emails so you can get alerts on everything going on. Also, if you wanted to learn the changes on the 6th edition the 6th edition test content outline, I'm like never gonna get used to that. There is a new video out on my channel that you can go watch right now, and it's gonna be amazing. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Hopefully you have a great evening, great weekend, and I'll catch you next week. Bye.